can thrive. Introducing Emu Energy Drinks. With an apocalyptic powerhouse packed into every can, keeping you sharp, focused, and ready to tackle the wasteland with ease. An epic pick-me-up of haphazard chemicals, strong aftertaste, strange side effects, and unmatched rejuvenation. Emu Energy Drinks. Stay alert, stay alive.
It's the bunker.
Basil's Bunker End Time Supply Subscription Service. Plans starting at just $17.76 a month. No hidden fees. Cancel anytime. 33-day money-back guarantee. Call now for a chance to win an attachable six-finger. Perfect for plausible deniability and AI generations and for your secret Nephilim handshakes. Call now. 1-877-740-3226. Basil's Bunker is solely operated by the Razzle Dazzle Ranch. CCR, CCNT, and the Shimura Estate are not responsible for any claims or guarantees. Call now.
Welcome to Basil's Bunker, where we have many amenities in the advent of coming societal collapse. Bohemian Grove generators powered by Chinese lithium cobalt batteries. Anti-air defense systems rivaling the IDF Iron Dome. Endless end times food ration buckets. And recreational activities like emu wrangling or Monty pet training.
What's up, bunkaroos? Welcome to Basil's Bunker. And here's a little shout out. Here's a little song for all the Age of Deceit 4 focus group people. This is my new jam, and I think it's supposed to be everybody's new jam. It's called Feeding the Ducks. Yeah, baby, this is that royalty-free stock music that comes available with your streaming software. Don't you love it? I do. Just come on, come with me, people. Come with me together. We're walking in the park. The world's ending. The apocalypse is coming. That's okay. We're just a bunch of bunkaroos hanging out. But we're not worried. We're prepared. We're ready for this. This is the cool strut of perfectly prepped bunkaroos. And look at that. There's some ducks over there. Oh, by the pond. Here, let's take our shoes off. Feel our feet in the grass while the world's ending all around us. Reach into your bag. What's that? Some bread, because you were ready for this. You were ready for any situation, and you were ready to feed the ducks. Throw some bread to the ducks. They like it. They're very happy. The ducks don't even know that the world is ending, that society has collapsed. They have no idea. And so that's why we're friends with the ducks. And then we take a stroll. We're back on the sidewalk. There's a purple hue of glowing atmosphere around us because, I don't know, could be anything. Could be maybe a bomb. Hey, come on. Where's my feeding the ducks? Come back. There we go. I gotta make sure this goes on loop because I cannot get enough of feeding the ducks. Well, thanks for being here with me and feeding the ducks, folks. We're just taking a little stroll. Oop, what's that? The duck, he's following us. Oh, he's following us. He wants more bread. That's okay. Come on with us, little duck. It's you and us. We now have a pet duck in the apocalypse. And that's okay, because we were prepared. We were prepared. There's room in the bunker for a duck. That's right. All right, folks. This is like a new thing that I started doing once I found this song. I think it's important that we sort of, get ourselves in the right mindset, a peaceful mindset, a community-based mindset where we can talk about all the fun stuff that we got going on. Okay, good. I see some people love the ducks. Psalm 40. Thank you. Okay. Well, I'm not making any guarantees, but there's a very good chance that we will start the show by feeding the ducks. Every single show. I mean, the ducks might have some important secrets for us. Nobody notices a duck. Intelligence is a very important aspect of being prepared for any situation. talking about human intelligence, but also perhaps duck intelligence. There are little spies, our little birds, if you will. Well, thanks for being here, folks. We're here for the 5th Basil's Bunker. We are just cruising. Thank you all for your feedback. I really appreciate it. And I really want to encourage you, especially if you have not done it yet, please go ahead. Reach out to me anywhere. Twitter, not Facebook, because I won't be there. You can reach out on the Instagram. Oh, you know what? I have not checked the Instagram in some time. But you can also email me at canarycryradio@gmail.com. Even if you're just introducing yourself. You know, I've got a this has been my thing lately. Maybe it's because the last 6 to 8 months have basically signaled not just the end of society as we know it, but sort of a personal apocalypse for myself. Not going to get into it now, but if you follow my work, you know, it's been a bad time, perhaps even the worst time, a time that I was not prepared for, and not due to any individual event or thing going on in my life, just all of them happening at the same time. But God is good. I don't know necessarily what the lesson that I'm supposed to be learning is from the past 6 months of nonsense, but I will say, I have drawn as close to Father God as I think I ever have before. And if that's what I'm taking from this, then that is okay as well. And as I am undoubtedly always reassured after I say this publicly, I think that this is a full-scale spiritual war going on, especially past 6 to 8 months. Whenever I shared that this has been the case in my life, everybody, like every single person, with the exception of maybe one person, has reached out and been like, I know, man, I don't know what it is. The past 6 to 8 months has just been the hardest possible time. You can't even start explaining to people because all of our lives are so individual and are so specific and unique, although sometimes we can take that for granted. But to even try to explain the nature of the disasters, the personal disasters that have been happening for the past 6 months. And look, I didn't even notice it happening 6 months ago. I just look back now and I go, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. It's been a tough 6 months. So if that's you out there, reach out. I like having conversations with people. We're supposed to be standing shoulder to shoulder here. We are the body, and we need each other more than anything. We don't need to be relying on this sort of individualistic lone wolf, rough and tumble cowboy prepper thing, much like spiritual life, where it is best when shared with other people in our vicinity or in our spheres of influence. There's strength in that, strength in the numbers. We can hold each other up. We can take care of each other. We can just listen to each other. And that concept is directly transferable to prepping for the end of the world. The bunker. You can't have just one bunk in the bunker, folks. That's why they make bunk beds, because you're supposed to have people with you, a community. Even if your community involves just the other guy down the street with his bunker, you got to build a network. And of course, as we know, you got to build a community of ducks. You got to make friends with all of God's creatures. When society collapses and it's just your ragtag group of survivors, preppers, people who've been paying attention and taking action, the one person you can trust, the one thing that you can always count on are the ducks that you've been feeding. You feed those ducks. You're investing in your future. You're investing in the ducks' future. You are building a family of fowl. Who was it? Was it St. Augustine going out preaching to the birds? Maybe it was St. Francis, one of those guys. Went out, preached to the birds, preached to the rocks, preached to all creation. All creation sings the glory of God. And ducks especially, they got that beautiful voice that can bring you strength and comfort when things get a little rough. So go on out. That's your homework for today, folks. After you finish polishing that canning device, or you finish off vacuum sealing that last package of freeze-dried or dehydrated eggs, and you fill up that last gigantic mason jar with eggs that you have glassed. What does that mean? I don't know. The ducks don't know either. But God provides for the ducks. God provides for us. And we're doing a great job. All right, that's enough about the ducks. Okay. Wow. See, once that song starts playing, it takes me away, it transports me. Thank you, everybody, for being here. What was I saying? Oh, yeah. Send an email, canarycryradio@gmail.com. Let me know how you're doing. And let's really start this show off. I mean, this is only the 5th episode. Here's my hope. I don't know if I've said this explicitly or not. My hope is that everybody listening, look, I get it. There's other podcasts. There's much more popular prepper guys who have lots of videos and hundreds of thousands of followers and lots of great tips, lots of things like that. That's great. I'm so happy for those people. I'm so happy for me, for having them, for being in the same reality as them. But here, we're a very special group of bunkaroos. And if you're here on episode 5, even if you have no idea who I am, no idea what's going on, why is this show Basil's Bunker on a channel called Canary Cry Radio? Don't know. But here, your family. I don't know if I can steal that directly from Olive Garden, but Basil's Bunker. When you're here, your family. And of course, it's the value for value model, which means we're not taking any directions from corporations, no support, no advertising, no nothing, because why would we need that if we have a network of producers? That's you folks. It's easy peasy to produce. So I want to have as close of a connection with y'all as possible. With that being said, there is out on the social media, out on the email, out on the text message. I don't think I sent that in the text message, actually. There is a link. There's a link to join the back room here. And if you get through it, there's a couple of clicks. Some of you might have to download an app. I don't think it's mandatory, but it'll ask you if you want that. You can come into the back room, hang out in the back room here, listen to the show, watch the show, and you'll be sitting right there. I can see you, and we'll, of course, be taking callers at some point here. So that's what we're going to do. Shalom to I'm sorry, I can't pronounce. I don't know how to pronounce that. All right, what are we doing? Oh, let's do some fun stuff. Here's the thing. Mental health is an interesting topic. It's one of those topics that a lot of people, because of the mainstream sort of obsession with mental health and, the generations finding different ways in which they are mentally unwell. And look, I'm not even saying it's not true, but of course we know there's lots of opportunity for virtue signaling, lots of opportunity for shifting, blame shifting, as the therapists might call it, or, excuses, justification for bad behavior, as well as highly monetized pharmaceutical companies benefiting from that, but also socially. So, there's this interesting aspect of social media, which we know about now. And I'm not going to I don't have the articles right here, but if you've been following my work, you know that culture is contagious. And also mental health is contagious in certain ways. It's been well documented. For instance, with the cheerleading team a few years back, who all followed the influencer who had Tourette's, and suddenly the entire cheerleading team had Tourette's. Of course, it's no surprise. It's not a surprise. It's not I'm not saying anything new here that people don't know, but as we know, more and more information coming out about social media being bad for your health. Well, bad for your mental health rather. But well, I think it has something to do with the fact that sometimes in some way, somehow, even if it's just spiritual or maybe metaphorical or maybe not necessarily clinical, we know that things like anxiety, depression, Tourette's, stuff like this is sort of culturally contagious. And so I think it's important. Here's the thing, folks. Part of this show, at least so far, part of this show that we've been dealing with is not just the practical material aspects of bunkering up or preparing or whatever. Also the spiritual aspects of this, very important, but also the bunkaroo mindset, very important. A lot of, I mean, I'm only interested in this because I too, of course, in the last 6 months have had lots of opportunities to self-reflect, to question my thoughts, my behaviors, what's just automatically happening, what's happening on purpose, things like this. And, it's always good to check in with fellow bunkaroos. And in this case, I found a fun thing. I'm always poking around with seeing what's out there in the media space. Oh, I see people coming into the waiting room. I've been told that being in the waiting room is not an enjoyable way to listen to the show. Please let me know if that's the case. But I see you, Jonathan F., in the chat, and I'm gonna bring you on in just here a second. We'll do a caller, see what Mr. Caller has to say. But I found this very fun website, which, part of the thing with this show is I'm not necessarily trying to lay on too thick, the kind of like classic branding of super intense, super scary, very alarmist, putting on a voice like this to make sure everybody knows I'm very serious about preparing for the end. Although I could and I might. I'm not saying I'm not going to go that way. But I think there's an opportunity that's being missed to be an easily accessible place to explore these ideas. And I found this outlet called Simple Family Preparedness, which I will take you on a journey through in just a little bit. But before that, I want to check in with a caller. Just going to check out what Jonathan F. is up to. I'm going to let you in here, Jonathan F. I'm going to click it right now. Here we go. Let's see what happens. You're on the air, caller.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, what's up, dude?
Not much.
Thanks for calling in. It's the one and only Jonathan F., musician, jingle maker extraordinaire. Not just for this show, although you did do one of the first jingles for this show like months ago, which I'm very grateful for. How you doing, buddy? What's up?
Not much. Just trying to finish up some homework for the summer term.
The summer term? You got summer school?
Yeah, I'm finishing up. I'm actually graduating, ready for the fall, which is funny because it's like 6 months out.
Congrats. What are you graduating? I guess I don't know how old you are, Jonathan F.
I'm actually 30 years old.
30 years old. Okay. What are you graduating?
I'm graduating from criminal justice.
Ooh, doggy. That's fun. I always thought that would be fun.
Yeah, I changed careers a lot for some reason.
We're millennials, man. It's what millennials do. We can't make up our minds.
Yeah.
So what do you want to talk about?
Doesn't matter. I was gonna ask you anyways. We need a little bit of music and stuff for the show, so.
Yes, we do. We do. In fact, we do across the board. All producers. We're calling all producers here because we are starting from scratch. So, I found Walking the Ducks, which I'm obsessed with now, which Walking the Ducks will now be a permanent fixture on the show. Hopefully, unless people don't like it, email me and say, I hate Walking the Ducks, get rid of it, or otherwise. But what do you have in mind?
Anything and everything, I guess. I'm into like really ridiculous stuff like the the Wednesday jingle on the news talk show, and
Yeah.
I like making random stuff like that.
Dude, I empower you to do that. And one thing that you've always been so good at, Jonathan F., is meeting needs. When during the show, if we're like, oh my gosh, we need this or we need this, you turn around, you get to work, buddy. I really appreciate that. So I will keep that in mind as I do the show, because we will be, we're building this together, and we'll definitely be calling out different things that we need.
Sure. It's funny because last night I was supposed to be finishing the homework, but I was doing the AOD stuff.
Focus group.
Yeah,
Great.
and the content in there is like, wow,
Crazy, right? It's
Yeah.
great.
a lot
It's
of people need to see this.
We are having such a fun time in there. The Age of Deceit 4 focus group, of course, for Canary Cry Producer. Get in there if you're not in there. Check your email. Look for a email from School, SKOOL, and get in there if you're a monthly producer. And if you're not in there yet, become a monthly producer. We'll get you in there. No, that has been extremely fun, A, just to be a part of, and B, I mean, some of the best conversations are going on in there. We're really learning a lot from people.
Yeah, I made a comment last night about a movie I just saw with my kids and my wife.
Mhm.
It's not very popular at the moment. It's called The Boy and the Heron.
Okay.
Um,
Oh yeah, yeah.
it-
That's what is it? The Japanese guy, right?
yeah, I think it's a Studio Ghibli movie.
Yes, that's right. Cool.
Um, a lot of the topics in there are like, it's like a revolving door with movies and media now. Like everything is repeated very often and stuff.
Yeah, the social engineering is very powerful. There is, culture is made that obviously through the media. We think sometimes people think, and just nobody here, of course, we're all way too smart for that. But it's so interesting. You talk to normies, and they'll speak as if media is a result of culture instead of the other way around. Culture is a result of the media in all of its forms, which is why we always, make such a big deal about the talented producers making art and music and stuff for this show, because you're literally making the culture instead of letting the culture make you.
Yeah, funny enough, I had an assignment where they were asking us about a song. It was a jazz song.
Mm-hmm.
It was in response to a bombing in Birmingham or something like that during the civil rights movement.
Mm-hmm.
And the instructor was talking about how should we use art, to create talking points or awareness or whatever, but it has that CRT, social justice,
Mm-hmm.
twang in, so you have to respond accordingly.
Of course.
It's just
Yeah, there's a right answer and there's a wrong answer for sure.
right. So even that is programmed.
Yeah. No, and it's very powerful. I mean, we're seeing a very interesting movement. I think everybody feels society collapsing, and there are, certain groups out there who are sort of panicking and lashing out a bit. I think they pushed this cultural change too fast, too hard, too far, and people feel taken advantage of, is what it is. During the COVID and during everything, people feel very taken advantage of in a lot of different ways, but definitely culturally as well. And you know what? We're Americans, baby. You can't take it. You can't take the America out of us. We don't like being pushed around. And when we sense that we're being bullied, the second we can catch our breath, we'll let you know what we think about it. And a lot of times it's not even about the actual concepts. Like, it's a lot of times it's not necessarily about, equity or about social justice or the individual concepts. It's just people are tired of getting pushed around a bit. I mean, I think that there's some, I don't think that everybody pushing the CRT thing is a bad person or an evil person. I'm sure there are bad or evil people included there. But, a lot of people, the reason they feel so strongly about it is because they feel it's the right thing. They feel it's going to make the world better. And who knows? I don't know. Only God knows what dosage of that kind of stuff would be beneficial. But they just pushed people around for too long. They pushed them too hard. All the canceling, all the demonizing, all this kind of stuff. And it's obviously a bit of a backlash right now. But it might not matter because, society might end altogether. And then we can start from scratch, baby.
I think we're pretty close. I mean,
yeah. Well, thanks so much for calling in, buddy. I really appreciate it. Do you have any last words before I jump into this next story here?
No, just a request.
Okay.
Just the Wednesday jingle if you have it.
Oh, dude, that is hilarious. I really wish that I had it. I don't have the jingle board filled with everything set up. Unfortunately, I'm just working off of our streaming software, but it is absolutely my plan to basically clone Gonza's entire setup over here. Because who knows? There might be times when I have to do Canary Crime News Talk solo, stuff like that. So and that's part of the fun and part of the reason I'm doing this show is to get better, to build the skills, to improve my skills, to be able to stream solo. And that's definitely a part of it. So I'll do this. I'll give you an IOU for sure. I'm putting it officially in the bank as every listener is my witness. I owe Jonathan F. A Wednesday jingle when I get it set up. Does that work for you?
Sure.
All right, buddy. All right, man. I appreciate it. I hope you call in again. I'll talk to you later.
Yeah, of course. See you later.
Take it easy, buddy. Look at that. Look at that. Taking calls. The Jonathan F. The Jonathan F. Whoever knew? Did you know he was going to sound like that? I didn't know. I had no idea. Dude's studying criminal justice. That's what we need around here. Somebody's got to bring some law and order to the wasteland, which I think, I don't know, might fit in a little bit to some of the themes today. I'm going to jump into this fun list that I found. It came out a month ago, and it's 20 signs you're a prepper, not just a hoarder. And folks, if I was not convicted by the Spirit when I started reading this, because we've talked about this before. What's the difference between a prepper? What's the difference between a hoarder? What am I? I think I definitely personally have some hoarding tendencies that I justify maybe with saying, oh, well, I need all this trash because someday the world's going to end and I'm going to wish I had all this trash or whatever, there's things just kind of piling up. And so I thought we should go through this together and we can all personally and corporately take our take stock of what this website, by the way, Simple Family Preparedness.com. Is that what it's called? Simple Family Preparedness. Let me show you Simple Family Preparedness real quick, because I think it's interesting as we consider here what the sort of presentation of Basil's Bunker as sort of a brand will look like. For those who are just listening, this looks very pastel. It kind of looks like almost like a doctor's office of a website. Very simple, kind of very generic logo, some hexagons making a flower, very pastel colors, simple family preparedness. And you scroll down, is your family prepared? Every day there are concerns, fears, and uncertainty that affect our families. Together we can minimize those fears with a plan of action for any situation. Be a part of Simple Family Preparedness community and never be unprepared. It's very family focused. Family, I think this is good. I'm going to take this note because, a lot of times survivalist, prepper based websites and brands, they can kind of have a certain je ne sais quoi of of a vibe, maybe a little bit more intense, maybe a little bit more, they don't really have a lot of maybe graphic designers or brand experts kind of making sure everything matches. I mean, look who's talking. Nothing that we do matches anything, but that's kind of the vibe we're going for. So simple family preparedness, very interesting. It seems very stock. It seems there's not a whole lot of personality here, which I don't know so much about, but their headers are first aid, 10-minute projects, preparedness skills, food storage, gardening, contact and about. And, I like how they have skills there. I like first aid being there, 10-minute projects. Everybody needs a project, a 10-minute one, and food storage. I think they're onto something. So I'm just going to keep my eye on these guys here. So we're going to their headline here, 20 signs you're a prepper, not just a hoarder. Okay, so there's giving a little bit of an out for hoarders to say, a very well-crafted headline, not accusatory, and it's giving hoarders sort of an out to be like, oh, no, I'm not just a hoarder, I'm a prepper. And it says here, being a prepper, although logical, can sometimes leave you feeling overwhelmed with all you've accumulated. Hello, raise your hand, folks. I don't know if it's just me, but if you're quite serious about prepping, you might even have the thought cross your mind, am I a hoarder? Given that both groups tend to stock up on things that they might need, it's not necessarily out of the question. That said, there's a lot that separates the two camps as well. Ooh, watch out, which can make it easier to be honest with yourself about what you're doing and whether or not there's an underlying problem that you need to address. So it's kind of an opportunity to, kind of self-diagnose. And again, this is important, okay? I'm going to make fun of some of this, but if we're being entirely intellectually honest, we all need to make sure that our prepping we are doing it right. We're not misprepping, and that we're doing it in the right spirit, much like that. Can Christians be preppers? I have a complicated relationship with that article I brought to the show called, can Christians be preppers? It was very negative. But in the end, it boiled down to just make sure you're doing things for the right reasons and you're not using it as some sort of coping mechanism. I think a lot of us, I'm not even going to make a judgment on anyone like this, because I'm sure that I have done this. But a lot of times our prepping can look kind of unorganized. It can look like just grabbing whatever thing we see. I mentioned how a lot of our daily interactions with prepping culture is from advertising. The ad, they know. The advertising, they know big data. They know they're tracking you. They know if they can sell you a multi-tool or a fire starter or something, and they wait, of course, until they know you're in your most anxiety-ridden state. They know when you just read the article about Russia nuking everybody. I'm telling you, they literally know. You just read that article, then boom, they're showing you prepper advertisements. And how are they going to sell you the prepper advertisement stuff? They're going to make you more anxious. This sort of hidden relationship that a lot of us have, which is an economically based one, by the way, of basically not so healthy, is a not so healthy coping mechanism for our anxieties. So I am going through this process. I hope everybody else takes a second, also goes through this process, so we can all, stay on the right track together. I'll go back to the article here. To ensure that you're prepping rather than hoarding, we've come up with a list of 20 signs you're a prepper, not just a hoarder. So these are, again, it's being presented as, here's 20 reasons why you're not mentally ill. See if you identify with the signs below to relieve any of your doubts. So we're here to relieve doubts, folk, like any good prepper-based content on the internet. It's a slideshow here. So number one, your stockpile is rather organized. Preppers understand the importance of organizational systems to not only allow them to stockpile, what they need, but access whatever they might need in an emergency. Hoarders, on the other hand, rarely have organizational systems, throwing their items wherever they can find the space. If your stockpile is organized rather than disjointed, chances are you're a prepper. All right, folks, let's be honest with ourselves. Does your prepper closet look organized like this sort of home and garden magazine style depiction of somebody's pantry filled with jarred and canned goods? I gotta say, I don't know if I've passed this one. I think I get into modes. I'm more of a pile organizer. I have piles. The piles, I know it's in the piles. If I need something, I know which pile it's in. But I could definitely get a little bit better at this. But that's okay. It's just number one. How about you, folks? Come on. Let's be honest with ourselves here. There's an advertisement here. Get out of here. Get out of here. You're not advertising this show. Here we go. Next up. 2, you're constantly swapping out old things. Come on. Some items like food and water need to be swapped out now and again when you've managed to go so long without an emergency and need to stock up on fresher items. Preppers will do this with ease. With ease. However, hoarders tend to have a hard time letting things go, which means that they can end up just piling new items on top of their older stuff. Anybody else? Anybody else? Come on. I mean, I've got canned goods that are coming up on their 5-year limit or whatever. Swapping things out. I mean, that really, even if we're not reading this article and you think of like, Mark Zuckerberg prepping, he's got some servant going through his very organized pantry and swapping things out. But, look, I'm not a billionaire, so I can't be doing that. I get it. That's kind of the ongoing maintenance costs of being prepared, keeping the bunker bunkaroo worthy. I think that's something to examine. Okay. I don't want to think about it too much because it fills me with shame. Next up, number 3, you're using the things you stockpile. This was interesting. Continuing with the above point, stuff that's about to expire or even tools that you've purchased for a potential emergency should be seeing some use. Preppers might have some things that just sit around, but others will use foodstuffs and other items to refill or replace them as needed. If it's become more about collecting rather than getting real use out of what you have, you might be a hoarder. I'm not going to comment on this. I definitely can say that I've purchased thing that I have not touched. I think I had a plastic bag sealing machine laying around here somewhere that I've never used. It goes back to like using your time for prepping and not just your money. It's easy, again, to be encouraged to spend our money and feel like that's preparing us. But there's work. There's work to be done. All right. 4, you don't feel distressed at the thought of throwing things out. I'm going to skip that one. Nobody needs to judge me about feeling distressed for throwing stuff out. Okay. I'm realizing just now, live on air, that I might be a little bit more on the hoarder side. How are you doing, chat? Are you doing okay? I see some of you are feeling about the same way I am. Yeah. All right. Links, shout out to Links in the chat, says, I use my preps. Well, la-dee-da. Good for you. No, I'm very proud. I'm very proud of you. Oh, good. Mrs. Tinfoil Hat Man. I'm glad to hear that I'm not alone in this. Thank you. All right, number 5, goods in your stockpile are quality goods. It's important to preface this tip by saying that not everything a hoarder ends up buying and putting into their hoard is trash. That said, a lot of hoarders do have trash lying around because they're unable to distinguish between valuable goods and goods that are hazardous or need to be thrown away. If everything in your stockpile is objectively not trash, you're a prepper. I cannot say that everything in the stockpile is objectively not trash. We're going to start doing homework for this show. That's what we're going to do. We have 1 week until the next show. And, we'll have a little thing like go through one of your piles and throw away the stuff and then send a picture into the show. We can all brag together. We can encourage each other. I'm going to write that down. If you're taking notes for the show, please write that down. We'll do homework. I'm going to try to remember to set some homework for today. I think this might be a good one, though. What was it? That was quality goods. Anyways, okay, we'll figure that out later. Next up, 6. Your reasons for prepping are not emotional in nature. People who hoard do so because there's underlying trauma that's leading to an emotional response. That seems a little deep. That being their hoarding. Let me do that again. Sorry, I cut it off too early. People who hoard do so because there's an underlying trauma that's leading to an emotional response. That being their hoarding. Okay, so hoarding is an emotional response. Preppers begin to collect goods that might prove useful later because they're interested in being prepared for an emergency. Knowing there's no emotional connection to your items or driving your prepping is a good indication that you're a prepper rather than a hoarder. Okay, this one I can say, okay, all right, so I get what they're saying. You're not saving stuff just because it... Look, I think we can separately be preppers and also be hoarders. That's what I think there's a bit of an in-between. There's a both here. You know, I got the prepping stockpile, but I think my hoarder piles are different. I've always been a bit of a nostalgic person. You know, small objects that I got hanging out with my parents when I was young, or little knickknacks that, you know, my grandma gave me when I was like 7. This kind of stuff. I do I like to describe it as having a healthy respect for the physical narrative of one's life. Okay, our lives are not just told. If we don't have physical representations of our memories and our feelings and our history, then our entire history is happening in our head. It's the narrative of our memories. And we all know how, you know, unreliable memories can be, the human mind can be. You know, these physical objects, they're like a way to tell the story of your life to yourself without simply having to rely on your own recall, okay? So leave my knickknacks alone. I'm gonna disconnect that one from the prepper. 7, you're intentional about what you're purchasing. Ask yourself, am I buying anything that might be useful, or am I being intentional about what I'm stocking up on? Buying everything you can get your hands on, and then trying to justify how all of your items can be a sign of hoarder behavior, especially as things accumulate and never leave your space. See, this is, I think, dangerous to the prepping economy. I think a large portion of, if you're anything like me, you have got, of course, stuff that makes sense, but you've got a bunch of stuff that was just advertised to you in your moment of weakness, and you know, you didn't really think about it, you just liked it. They made it so easy, one-click purchase. You know, let's be intentional about what we're purchasing. We can all take that constructive criticism. There's another ad. I can't believe it. 8, things have actual uses, not just potential. The pain. Everything in your stockpile should have an actual application. Many hoarders stock up on generally useless items, and then they will then justify saying that they can use them someday for something. If you know what your things are for and you can truly use them in an emergency, you're probably a prepper. I don't know. I can find, it depends on the emergency. There might be an emergency someday where I need to seal little plastic bags. Okay? I'm just ultra prepped for emergencies you can't even think of. Simple family prepping or whatever. Number 9, you're able to navigate your daily life without disruption. This one is interesting. While an initial hoard might only take up a little bit of space, it doesn't stay small for long. Most hoarders can barely navigate their space over time, or may find that they're unable to use certain rooms or appliances in their homes. If you can go about your daily life while prepping and it doesn't consume you, you're a prepper. Okay, didn't need to throw that little jab at the end. The garage is a problem for me. The garage is a problem. I'll just say that. It's not a garage. It's just a big room with a lot of stuff in it. That's on me. Okay. Look at me, folks. I'm trying to be vulnerable, with you bunkaroos, because I want to set an example of how we all need to, take responsibility for our, for our reasons for doing things, for our purpose, for our justification, for our mind, because I think somewhere someone might confirm to me that, you fake it till you make it. You try to stay organized. You replace the stuff. You clean the garage because you want to be the person with a clean garage, or you want to be the person with an organized prepper space or whatever. Okay, people, are you with me? Am I losing you? Okay, please. Link says, hey, we need a bigger bunker, Basil. Yes, always need a bigger bunker. That's good. Okay, 10. Your family isn't too concerned. It's nice of them to put the two. They put two in parentheticals there. Your family isn't too concerned. Prepping isn't for everyone, and chances are that there are individuals in your life who have something to say about what you do. That said, you aren't likely to be approached by everyone in your family telling you that something is wrong and you need help. If they are, this could be a sign to be honest with yourself and see if you need some support with your activities. Thankfully, I have not had any loved ones say that they are concerned about my prepping behavior. So that's a win. I got a win on that one. Number 11, your personal health hasn't taken a hit due to your prepping. This one was kind of crazy. It says prepping is an activity that shouldn't affect your health at all. Hoarding often causes health issues because it allows for mold growth, rat droppings, and other health hazards to accumulate. Well, I'm not going to say anything about mold growth or rat droppings. I mean, come on, things happen. But I would say prepping physically, I mean, I think that's the reason why I kind of got into exercising and got into taking care of myself. So I think I passed that one. Is your prepping bad for your health? Only you can answer that question. 12. Okay, they're giving us some gimmies here. 12. Your home isn't falling apart. Hoarders have serious structural issues as their home is overwhelmed with trash. This can include walls breaking down, floorboards becoming damaged and rotten, and other problems. Those with stockpiles that don't weigh the house down or otherwise damage it should be confident that they don't have a hoarding issue. Huzzah! My house isn't being destroyed by my piles. Turns out I'm fine, everybody. Lesson learned. Nothing to see here. 13. You're not panic buying. This one I thought was interesting, and I think it has a little bit more depth to it. Panic buying happens from time to time, especially when there's a development in our society that causes immense uncertainty. But outside of those key developments, you shouldn't panic buying things that you might need. A constant sense of anxiety that drives your purchases and causes you to stockpile so much more than you need is a sign that something else is wrong. Well, yeah, it's a sign that we're going to run out of toilet paper because there's a pandemic. Boy, oh boy, any prepper out there? Oh, we had our moment. We had our moment in the sunshine that we could feel proud that we were not in the group. People running, buying bottled water, buying all the toilet paper. I had a lifetime supply of toilet paper already. It wasn't weighing down and it wasn't collapsing and killing me, but it was there. But it does show, again, back to culture, that the kind of this prepping thing can become, sort of a social engineering project. I mean, it's kind of sales 101. If you want to sell something, tell people it's running out. Get that exclusivity going. Say, hey, you better go buy this right now because nobody's ever going to make any more ever. And that'll get people going. So if you were already in the process of preparing yourself before COVID hit, we all had a moment of satisfaction there. So that's okay. 14, the reasons for prepping aren't rooted in severe paranoia. Okay. Some people prep who are known as extreme preppers. They're very paranoid about society breaking down and will do everything in their power to make sure they're prepared. Okay, what exactly is paranoia? Can we define this term? Because looking around and seeing that we're experiencing the fall of an empire and wanting to be ready for the fall of that empire. Is that might be paranoia, but they do specifically refer to severe paranoia. Okay. All right. Thank you for giving us that distinction. Says here, more often than not, these people will have a ton of money. What? But those who don't can live in disarray preparing for the apocalypse. If you're not so paranoid that your life is completely revolving around prepping to the point of hoarding, you're in a good spot. I don't know exactly what they're telling me there. But this does bring up something. I'm going to make a note of this. One thing I think in exploration of figuring out what to do with this show, I think something that we can all really get behind is becoming more disciplined as a people, as a bunkaroo community, is kind of getting a little bit more disciplined, maybe having a little bit more of a method, because there's a lot of people out there. I've told stories about my friends who were never preppers, and then of course recently they're like, oh my gosh, what do I do, Basil? I think it's important for us, and I'm willing to take any notes from anybody on this. Email me, canarycryradio@gmail.com. If we could develop sort of a starter strategy. They see what's going on. They go, oh my gosh, I got to start prepping. I've never done it before. Where do I start? Instead of being manipulated and taken advantage of by the advertising industry, and, randomly being guided towards spending their money without, they'll buy I don't know, some sort of solar powered electrical, I don't know, automatic dog food dispenser because you got to get one for the apocalypse. And, they'll be led astray from sort of calmly, confidently, organized, and disciplined, slowly, by the way, to stay in budget, slowly and gradually, getting the essentials and doing this in order. This is a big thing that we're kind of talking about for Basil's Bunker as a resource, perhaps soon, to have, not just make recommendations for products, not just maybe make them available in one way or another, but also like put a system together, like sign up and you will gradually be equipped with the priorities in the order that they exist. I think that's something we can really look at. I said I was going to write something down and I didn't do it. Now I don't even know what to write down. Let's see. Disciplined prep strategy, maybe. Strategy. All right. Next up. Your financial situation is stable. This is, I think, actually really important. It says hoarders spend and spend and spend some more so that they can accumulate more. Preppers have a budget to stick to it. Is your financial situation stable? Are you able to stop when you hit your budget limit? If you answered yes to either of these questions, you're very likely not a hoarder. Great. Again, it's so easy when something in the news happens, something in the world happens, or you just get served an advertisement. You just run out and you just start spending because the act of spending, the act of purchasing, the act of acquiring provides some sort of relief to the panic that you haven't done it before. And I think if there was some sort of system or some sort of, I don't know, strategy, some sort of community, some sort of thing that people can just be like, oh, here it is. Okay, I need to start. I know I need to start now. I need to start in budget. That's top, because when you're put in panic mode, you'll spend any amount of money at the, you'll rack up that credit card for like $3,000 or something without even thinking about it, because you're thinking, well, the world's going to end anyways. I'm not going to have to pay this $3,000 back. That's surely the most powerful economic engine on the planet won't survive, the collapse of society. Folks, the credit card companies are going to be the warlords. They're going to be the ones coming after you in the wasteland, Mad Max style. You're going to have a guy who doesn't show up at your house with a suit and tie. He's going to have a spiked shoulder pad and a hubcap formed into a mask on his face, and with some stitched together leather briefcases fashioned into armor around his loins, and he's going to be like, "Hello, I'm here to collect your past due, and your bills coming due, and your interest rates. We had to pump those up on those variable interest rates. That's what it's going to be like. So staying in budget, very important, very difficult for anybody out there. Very difficult to stay within budget because we don't automatically budget it in. Is that part of, like, first of all, raise your hand if you have a monthly budget. Good for you. We're all very impressed. But number two is prepping supplies, a line item on the budget. And do you stick to the budget? I'm not saying we all should get our act together financially, of course. I recommend this to everybody. I recommend it to myself. But look, if we're going to be serious about it, we should make prepping or just emergency preparedness a line item that is disciplined and diligently stuck to every month. Just saying. Joyful Noise says, I fear you are correct, Basil. Do not fear. I am correct. Yet again. Sir Darren Knight of the Hungry Panda. Says, Basil, I apologize. I was distracted in the chat, but I'm listening now. Thank you. Thank you for listening. Okay, let's keep going. Number 16, everything is in its place. I feel like they're just rubbing this one in now, but everything should have a place when you're prepping, and you should never feel that you're being encroached upon by the things that you're buying to prepare for emergencies. Only when things start piling up and you're no longer able to move around normally should you worry that your prepping has started to be something else. Okay, they're just putting in that again, just to kind of freak you out. Nope, don't panic. 17, everything hasn't become about prepping. This is very important. Prepping is something that should be a side focus in the grand scheme of things. A well-balanced person should have multiple hobbies and focuses. Okay, I don't know about prepping as a hobby, but okay. I mean, I guess technically it could be. Hoarders, on the other hand, are just focused on hoarding. If you are only prepping and you're doing something else, you may have transitioned into stocking up on too much. Okay, so live your life, folks. There's a lot of stuff going on. This comes with spiritual prepping aspect of it too, and the relational. We shouldn't be sacrificing our relationships. We shouldn't be sacrificing our spiritual development. We shouldn't be sacrificing our financial security. All these things is very important. Number 18, they throw some gimmies here at the end. I love it. 18. This is how you know you're a prepper and not a hoarder. You haven't been threatened by the city. Some hoarder properties are terrible, with houses or properties needing to be condemned because they're no longer fit to live in. Once the city notices something is wrong or gets word of what's inside your house, looks like, they'll let you know that there's a problem and that you need to fix it. Haven't gotten a notice from the city? You're in good shape. Well, there you go, folks. We should all take pride if we haven't gotten a notice from the city that our prepping is too much. 19, an interesting one. I don't think this is relevant to me anymore, but I could see a time when it might have been. 19, you don't get defensive when people point out what you have. I have joy now when people point out prepper stuff that I have. And it's because so obviously that the culture has shifted towards prepping. The panic in the public, everybody's realizing that they haven't been prepping and they were the fools. And so it's a little bit more of a point of pride nowadays. But, before 2019, of course, the different reality that we lived in, before 2019, people could make fun of somebody who's prepping, but no longer. Now we are the heroes. 20, you can come to the conclusion that what you have is enough. This I take very seriously, folks. In life and in preparation. This is a tough one. I don't know what I think about it so much yet. Prepping comes in all kinds of shapes and sizes, with some prepping for a 72-hour natural disaster and others prepping for much more serious issues. However, most reach a point where they realize that what they have is enough. Are you here? If so, you're a prepper. If that moment never comes, that could be an issue. I don't know. I don't know what to say about this one. Can you ever be over prepared? I think one interesting thing about this particular piece of media is that they are specifically talking about stockpiling goods. They're not speaking in terms of, preparation of your skills, preparation of your mind, preparation of your heart, preparation of your community, preparation of this kind of thing. I don't think you can ever stop building the skills that you could use. I think that maybe that's obvious. Maybe I'm not saying something amazing there. But this idea, that's a hard idea. I'm just going to say it. It's a hard idea. The idea that you could just be done prepping. That you have enough food, you have enough water, you have enough first aid kits. Because if you're like me, if a prepper situation comes around, you're like, okay, well, I'll probably live another 40, 50 years. So I'm going to need 50 years worth of first aid kits, 50 years worth of antibiotics. Like, it's easy to go that far out. And maybe that's just not a good way to do it. Maybe I'm wrong. I think it's natural. I would say, people in the chat, I think you would agree with me that it's kind of natural to extend the idea of your preparation timeline out pretty far. But that's something to think about. Do you have a limit? I think it's a good exercise. I think that's a good exercise for all of us to go through. Maybe even if you're new and you're just getting started, maybe an even more powerful exercise to say, okay, what's my goal? What is enough? What will get me where I need to go? That's an interesting concept. I'm not saying necessarily that I'm going to add that into my curriculum, but I think it's a really intellectual place to start the pursuit. How much is enough? This will be a good, like, if we ever put together a class or a booklet or a how-to or something, that's a pretty fancy schmancy intellectual place to start for new people. And I think it can really help you kind of, I think it helps with everything. I think it helps with the organization, helps with the budgeting, helps with the panic. I think it helps with the anxiety too. I think it helps across the board. Could be. We'll explore it. We'll all explore it. You guys should be asking yourselves these questions as well. I'm scared to... I'm going to save that comment for a second. Joyful Noise says, oh, never settle. Compromise, yes. Settle, no. Sorry, everybody. Just check in. It's hard just having one person on the show because I got to read and talk at the same time. All right. So there you go. I think this was an important thing, at least to lay as a groundwork for the show, and if we're going to grow, if we're going to try to be responsible in how we grow as individuals and a community of people preparing for the future, I think this was helpful. I should have made this link. I'll make this link available somewhere. Just to run through them again. 1, your stockpile is organized. 2, you're constantly swapping out old things. 3, you're using the things you stockpile. 4, don't feel distressed at the thought of throwing things out. 5, the goods in your stockpile are quality goods. 6, your reason for prepping are not emotional in nature. 7, you're intentional about what you're purchasing. That's a good one. 8, things have actual uses, not just potential. 9, you're able to navigate your daily life without disruption. 10, your family isn't too concerned. 11, your personal health hasn't taken a hit due to your prepping. 12, your home isn't falling apart. 13, you're not panic buying. Love that one. 14, the reason for prepping aren't rooted in severe paranoia, severe being the key word. 15, your financial situation is stable, very important. 16, everything is in its place. 17, everything hasn't become about prepping. Live your life. 18, you haven't been threatened by the city. 19, you don't get defensive when people point out what you have. Yes, be proud of it. 20, you can come to the conclusion that what you have is enough. I didn't do very good on this list, to be honest with you. And I'm here to be vulnerable in front of my friends. And I hope that we can all move together in, getting a handle on our minds, getting a handle on our spirits, getting a handle on our materials, getting a handle on everything. Okie dokie. Well, that's that. I don't know much else to say about that, but I hope that was nice for you. I hope it gave you something to think about. It sure gave me something to think about. And that's what we're here to do. Think, folks, think. What if I put together a school group for Basil's Bunker? That might be something to think about for those who are in the AOD4 focus group. What if we had one of those for Basil's Bunker, where we could work things out like this? Okay, anyways, let me know. Email me, canarycryradio@gmail.com. All right, we have a caller in the waiting room. This is very fun. I'm liking this. Remember, you know what? I will pop the link if you want to come hang out in the waiting room and be a caller. Call in, have any questions, have any comments, want to say anything about what's already been talked about, or want to talk about something else. I'll pop that link into the chat again. I'm not sure if that is going into, it doesn't look when I do that it's going into the Rumble. So I will put it into the Rumble automatically. There we go. Okay. All right, Miss G Beauty. Let's see. Let's hope you're ready to come on the show. Here she comes. It's Dame Miss G Beauty. Hey, caller, you're on the show.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you great. Perfect.
Great. Okay. I wasn't sure about that. Hello, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing? Have you been convicted by the Spirit at this list of 20 things we should pay attention to?
No, it's definitely interesting. It's something that I used to think about, and especially when I lived in the city, my sister was always like, you need to start prepping. What if you get stuck in the city?
Yep.
And since living with my parents, I don't have to think about it as much.
Oh, that's good.
Think about it as much. So yeah.
Love it. Now, it's so funny. At the end of the show, I have some prepping projects in the Bible that I think you'll resonate with, because I think they kind of mention what you're talking about. That's great. Yeah, Miss G Beauty, thank you so much for all your support over the years. Sorry, Dame Miss G Beauty. Gotta remember that.
Yeah.
So what do you want to talk about?
I don't know.
Okay.
Do you have any topics?
Well, I've got topics coming out of my ears. So you said you used to live in a city. Now, this is something that I think is really important. I think it's something that does not get maybe as much, attention or love in the prepping culture. I mean, there are some really good, powerful, popular prepping, whatever, people, YouTubers, etc. But I feel really compelled to make access way easier to urban preppers, to people in the city, because they really face a whole lot of other problems. I mean, the obvious one is step one: leave the city.
Yeah.
It really all just kind of flows down from that.
Yeah.
Are your parents preparing for the future here?
They do in a way, maybe
Okay.
not as much as maybe a prepper per se would. I would definitely say my sister is and brother-in-law and their family is definitely more on the prepper route.
God bless them. Right.
Yeah. So no, they have the chickens and a little homestead and really just trying to do what God has called them to do. I lived with them for a couple years. And so, or throughout lockdown, pretty much I moved from city to homestead.
Yes, you've kind of alluded to this previously. You are basically on a homestead right now, right?
Used to. My sister is on the homestead. I'm more in a proper town and proper
Okay.
house now. But like when I lived at my sister's, we were like, it was her first year on the property and she had just gotten it. And like we were literally digging gardens, but when you're on the Canadian Shield and there's rocks when you dig, it's not conducive to making gardens.
That's a tough
And
one,
it
right?
was hard work, and it was like she was pretty much like, I don't want to think about flowers. You're doing flowers. And I was like, she's like, I have all the veggies to do. I was like, okay. So it was very much like thrown in and just like figure it out. I was like, okay.
You know,
So-
that's kind of the thing. That's kind of the thing. A lot of times you're just kind of flying by the seat of your pants with this stuff. I think, you know, to have a little bit of guidance would be nice.
Yeah, it was her first year into it too, and she was like, I need to learn to garden from kind of scratch. And she's like the type of person's like, I will go all in and learn all about all the things. And I was like, it very much taught me how to figure it out and learn how to learn from scratch, how to learn something you've never done before.
Dude, that is like the most important thing. I don't know if I've talked about it before, but learning how to learn is like the number one most important. Somebody who's good at learning and learning fast and learning well, they almost don't even need to prepare, because like when the collapse of society comes, they'll just be able to pick it up really fast. Like that is a huge talent.
Absolutely. It's definitely one of those things. It's like, okay, if something's put in front of me and it's like, learn it, I'm like, okay, I'll figure it out. But no, it's definitely like a learning curve for both of us on the farm first year. And then we're like, okay, harvest. Now we need to learn how to can and process everything. It was very entertaining. It was two millennials, because she's 10 years older than me. So she's at the top end of the millennial, and I'm at the bottom end of the millennial age group. And it was funny. It was very
a tale as old as time. Two millennials just figuring it out as they go. I mean, I do think that the millennial generation as a whole has sort of a higher proclivity for the expectation of the end of the world. I mean, that's just science. Polls do show that like some crazy, like 70% of millennials think that the world is going to end. But then just kind of the blind, undeserved confidence of a generation who's never really put the work in, thinking, you know, just gonna go figure it out. But I think it's an asset. I think it's an asset for sure.
Yeah, no, it'll help us adapt and hopefully survive. And because, well, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Well, the adaptation is important too, because this is a big deal with kind of my own prepping, which is like, there's so many different things to prepare for. We do not know. We are very silly if we think we know exactly what the decline of society will be. You know, there's kind of this idea where we'll wake up one day and it'll be Mad Max, but like it's much more likely that it will be a slow, decades-long sort of dwindling of the government with, you know, lashing out, trying to hold on to power, trying to whip people back into shape. You know, power does not like to let go easily. And when power starts feeling their authority slip, that's when they really tighten their grip. And it's kind of doesn't sound as fun to have it happen that way, but nothing you can really do about it. Have you ever been threatened by the city for your prepping?
I have not. Thankfully, I have not, nor has anyone in my family.
Okay,
but I worked for a township not very long ago. It was my last job that I had like a month ago. And we would have like bylaw where the people, like I live up in Canada. So bylaw would take care of any complaints. And we'd have to call bylaw or tell them to call bylaw. So we'd get complaints of, oh, my neighbor's yard is so full of junk. And I don't know whether it's hoarder or prepper, but I heard a lot of complaints, and it was very entertaining. Now thinking back, I'm like, I don't have to worry about it, but I wonder if they're a prepper or hoarder.
Geez Louise. I think, you know, I don't know how much you follow sort of I don't know what to call it, like Gen Z millennial mental health culture,
Mm-hmm.
where now the idea is that like a certain degree of autism and ADHD sort of overlap and they have a lot in
Yeah.
common, and you can be autistic or ADHD or a mix or something like that. It's
Yeah.
kind of how I feel about the prepper hoarder thing.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
you
They
know, not
overlap
all,
in areas, but they can be
yeah,
separate. Yeah.
like 90% of people who suffer from the affliction of prepping and hoarding have some mixture of which. The key is to just figure out what mixture you are so you know
Yeah.
like exactly how to treat yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
I think it's important. I'm not saying I'm like the most hooked in with homestead prepper culture. I
Mm.
do hope that through this show, I can connect with that community more and learn a lot about it and become, a member of that, I don't know, community, I guess.
Mm.
But I don't see or hear a whole lot of preppers like connecting around the inner struggle, the
Mm.
knowing thyself aspect
Mm.
of it. A lot of great channels and a lot of great podcasters and stuff, and like people love watching the project videos, but
Mm.
it can kind of be just a form of entertainment watching these project videos, just
Yeah.
imagining a world in which we had the time and the resources to make the projects. And that's okay. That's a great form of entertainment. It's if you ever are in a pinch and you can build a water distillery in the desert because you watched a video, that's great. But I think there's a lot to be gained to like understand your own prepper / hoarder mind. I've
Mm. Mm.
I've considered there's this fella Pete Rollins that I've interviewed for Ravel a few times, and I think he came on Canary Cry. Who's this sort of Irish philosopher man.
Mm.
And I'm like, dude, I wonder if I could get him on to just like talk about the whatever inner philosophical underpinnings cause people to either become or not become preppers, because it just seems logical.
Yeah.
What's illogical about it? And then yet we can take it to illogical places, and otherwise normal people cannot see the logic in it, which honestly is a form of gaslighting if you're asking me.
Yeah, no, that's very true. Yeah.
Well, what's your next here's a question.
Mhm.
This might be a question I might ask people, but some people don't like to be asked questions. But I'm curious, one or both, what was the last thing you purchased because you're like, oh, this will be good in an emergency, or this will be good, just to have in case something happens? Or what's one that you kind of got your eye on or that you think about and you just haven't pulled the trigger on?
Again, it was something I was thinking about more almost like pre-pandemic. Because like I had like the water bottle filter. I had some like just different small prep stuff. So like I used to get like water bottle filters like for a specific water bottle, and honestly I was on a subscription model for that, and I've just been pausing them because I have great water here. But I don't know if there's anything.
I mean, that's
Like,
fair.
it's definitely something I need to think about again. I'm almost more like convicted again of like, okay, what can I start doing to prep? Because I've just really not needed to for so long.
Right?
Like living with a homesteader or living with my family again, it's very different mindset, and also not being in the city and having to figure out how I'm gonna get out.
Totally.
But
I
I used to
mean,
have, my
yeah.
sister has taught her kids like create a go bag when you go out. Like Like they go out into the forest, so they have to know how to like survive. But I don't know for myself again what I need. But yeah, I need to start
Dude.
thinking about it again.
Go bag is a great start. That's where I tell all my people where to start, you know,
Yeah.
because it can be so big, the idea of like, if I'm going to survive in the wastelands, what will I need? And what you'll need is everything.
Yeah.
Everything you'll just need everything.
Yeah.
But it's a nice, you know, it's a nice way to ground it for somebody new. Like I said, I told the story about my buddy who called me the other day when all the solar storms were hitting and stuff. And, you know, I was just like, look, it's a big world, man. I've been doing it for years. You're going to need everything. It's blah, 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 blah. He's like, oh no, I don't have the money. But budget wise, energy wise, to just have a goal that is accomplishable, much like, you know, we were talking about know when to stop or know how much you need or whatever. It's good to have a goal that you could work towards a goal. It also helps you like know your next steps. Because if it's just an amorphous, like I need everything forever, that's a good way to become a hoarder and not a prepper.
And
but
it's too overwhelming to accomplish. Like
totally overwhelming. Not even just the idea of finishing, but just the idea of like, what's next? What's the very next idea, like thing? So to start with that bug out bag, you know, it's just a backpack. Here's the stuff. Take, you know, budget it in. It's all fairly, you know, inexpensive for the most part. Unless you're getting your like night vision goggles and whatever, you know, that's kind of next level. But I highly recommend that, even just as a way to transfer the energy, like the prepper energy in us. It's like this little vibrating ball of anxiety that's just like, you know, you have to do it. You're gonna die if you don't do it. Like, you're smart. Your eyes are open. You see what's going on in the world. You know something is going to happen for sure, no doubt whatsoever. And you kind of need to like find a way to very effectively and beneficially let that steam come out in a way that doesn't just like, you know, ruin your life in one way or another.
Eat away at you. Yeah. You need to start somewhere to get that like thing in you to calm down, and then
oh yeah, totally. I mean, that's the other thing. Either you kind of let out the steam, let out the pressure, or it's just like you can feel it. You can feel it in your chest when you're like, I know I need to get ready, but I don't take steps. I don't know how to take steps. It's so big. Nobody's whatever. You can like almost physically feel it in your chest that it's like, you're in big trouble, mister. Is that just me? Is this just my my Basil's bunker therapy hour? Look, I think I'm onto something, folks. Well, thank you so much for calling in, Dame Miss G Beauty. I appreciate you spending some time and calling in. It's great to talk to you.
Yeah.
Do you have any last words before I move on to the next topic?
I have one story, and my niece is gonna.
Oh yes.
I don't know if she'll hate me or love me for saying this story, but there was one year that the prepper influence is definitely like from my sister to her kids. And one year, my sister was like, "Oh, what do you want for like your birthday?" And she's like, "Oh, I want a knife. I want a water bottle where I could drink from anywhere, like a filtered water bottle." And then she's like, "And I want red lipstick." And I was like, "Oh." What? It was really cute. So we all kind of joined together and helped her accomplish her dreams of, it was very cute. And
I love that.
It was like, she's like, I'm a prepper, but I'm still gonna have the fashion. And I was like, that is very much her. It made me laugh.
There is some serious wisdom in that child. That is some
very practical, but still is something that like she can enjoy a little bit.
I mean, you can think of a dozen situations where, you know, somebody, I don't necessarily know about lipstick, but those weird little things that like, you know, it's like in a movie, there would be one scene where thank God she had the lipstick because it really got her out of that pickle.
She was very much like, almost like that assassin mind that like, she's very interesting. She's so funny.
I love
The word
that.
assassin was thrown around the house a few times after this season of her life. It was
I think
great,
it's
so.
I wish somebody called me an assassin mind. I think I might be something a little bit more than a podcaster if I had had the encouragement as a child.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you so much, Dame Miss G
You're
Beauty.
welcome.
Thanks for calling in. I hope you call in again.
All right, bye.
Bye-bye. Fun. All right, folks, look at that. What else we got here? I got some stuff here. Let me pull up my notes. Where are you, notes? There you go. Oh, okay. Yeah, let's do this. Wanted to show off a thing or two. Recently, a lot of talk about space weather, a lot of talk about solar flares, a lot of talk about EMF and the magnetic poles and things like this. Yes, I have been sort of obsessed with this as well. For some reason, I mean, it just became the talk of the town. Of course, about a month ago, we had those extreme solar weather events that was gaining headline news, and the aurora borealis, or whatever, the northern lights blasting off in further south, at least across our country, but across the world, I believe. And it's fun, it's beautiful, it's kind of this weird side thing where you're like, wow, really? It's like I got kind of like a scientific interest to it for people. But some people, it's a little bit more of an interest to them. There's this fella, and I cannot necessarily vouch for this fella in any sort of way. So this is not necessarily I don't know, what do you call it? This is not an endorsement, but he's a very gained a lot of popularity on the internet, specifically because of his whole thing is focusing on space weather. His here it is. Here's his Twitter, or his X here, at Sun Weatherman, Space Weather News. He recently has been sort of posting his identity a little bit more, which I guess that's fine. There he is driving a car, and he has this great channel. Oops, I was looking. Oh, Sir Darren told me to look up Nuttin' Fancy, and I did, Sir Darren. I have it here. I have it pulled up. Thank you for telling me about that. I'll take a look at it later. But here we go. I'll go over to Space Weather News, loading the YouTube channel. Suspicious Observers is the YouTube channel. He ballooned up to 769,000 subscribers. That's crazy. He's got almost 6,000 videos. And one thing he does is just every day, he makes a 3-minute video, like every single day, just reporting on that night's or that day's solar flare activity or solar weather activity. It's very interesting. It's very easy to digest. I'll just warn you right now, we are all always going to die, according to this guy. I mean, I'm not saying he's necessarily like, I don't think he's incorrect, but what we've seen recently, in recent years, and even more recently, is a degradation of the Earth's magnetic field. And just as a crash course, I'm not an expert at this, but just as a crash course for people, the Earth has a magnetic field around it. And that magnetic field, that's why your compass works. And that magnetic field is not just for compasses, but it's also is like a force field. It's like a shield around the Earth where the magnetic field will deflect certain kinds of radiation and particles getting blasted from the sun, because the sun, especially recently, is blasting a lot of stuff straight towards us. And this guy will sort of document every coronal mass ejection. And apparently, I didn't know this, but I guess NASA or whatever, they track these explosions on the sun, and then they actually track like when the dangerous waves and particles hit the Earth. And these things, they take maybe a day or two to get to the Earth. So they're not like necessarily at the speed of light. But when these explosions happen, then this guy's like, uh-oh, look at this. Okay, this will be hitting in about 2 days. We're going to keep a look at it. And the unfortunate part, everybody, is that the Earth's magnetic field has been dwindling. It is weak. It is weaker maybe than it's ever been. And so there's obviously a lot of talk about EMF, collapse of society. Oops, I turned myself off. There we go. And the dangers of electromagnetic interference. And of course, this is also in the conversation when it comes to nuclear bombs and, shutting down the grid and frying every piece of electronics that we might have, even if it's not plugged in. A certain amount of this EMF stuff comes blasting through the earth. It could just simply fry everything. It could just melt all the metal. It could just, resonate with all the wires and set fire to all the wires and houses and just like a lot of this kind of stuff, folks. I'm talking worst case scenario, obviously. But it is a nice little dose of like your morning apocalypse. You tune into this guy's video and he tells you what's going on. And recently there was an interesting video. I just took some screenshots here from it. Here it is. Wow, that's really small. It's kind of hard for me to see on this side. Wait, let me make this bigger. Boop. Bigger. Okay. So here's the estimated planetary K index, 3-hour data. I don't know if I can efficiently or accurately give you a whole lesson on this thing, but the bars in this graph are the sort of intensity of the rays, not just hitting the earth, but the intensity of what's making it through our magnetic shield around the earth. And as you can see here, this is just for the day of June 26th through June 29th. Yesterday, I should have made better notes on this. I think it was yesterday. You can see here there was an alert put out by the people who put out these alerts with the government. It says, oh, watch out. There's a G1 watch. And a G1 watch is a minor geomagnetic storm. Watch, the watch is in effect for June 28th. So they saw an explosion on the sun and they go, okay, no big deal. It's a little one. They, measured it at the time. They go, this one's no big deal. But by the time that it hit the earth, when previously with our magnetic field at natural full levels, it would have just been like a little boop, whoopsies. But because the magnetic shield of the earth is so damaged, and I don't think this is not like a climate change thing. This is just the like, my gosh, God's set up this planet in one way or another, whether it's a ball or it's flat, the realm, whatever you want to say about it. It's got a shield around it. That's nice. Some people don't believe in the sun. Look, I'm just talking EMFs here, whatever the EMFs are coming from. But whatever the case, the Earth's magnetic field is not defending us as well anymore. And he is striking the fear of the sun into me pretty good. Now, nuts. I keep turning myself off. Sorry. I think it was the first episode of Basil's Bunker. I talked about my little EMF project during this most recent solar storm stuff. And I thought I would just bring you some examples because it's actually fairly accessible to work with EMF stuff. Now, in the past, I mean, obviously, we're going to be making a Basil's Bunker EMF hat to protect your brain from, mind control and aliens and 5G and all that stuff. Obviously, start preparing to support the show by buying tinfoil hats. But I told this story. For those who don't know, I live off the grid. I've got a solar system running all my electricity. And I have these inverters that take the power from the sun and turn it into DC, which puts it in the batteries, which then can power the house. And these inverters, I mean, folks, what's the biggest, scariest electronic device in your house? Is it a toaster? is it a TV maybe? But that's not too scary. Like, remember the old tube TVs? Gen Zs won't remember, but back when TVs weren't flat screen, and if you got too close to the TV and you kind of tried to touch it, it would crackle and the static and stuff. Only thinking back now that was actually kind of sketchy. But there's what, an Xbox is kind of a big electronic things. These things are not like scary. These inverters that are taking power from the sun and turning it into electricity for my house, they're pretty intense. They run a lot of power through them. And once all this chit chat started happening about the sun exploding and frying all the electronics, there was a little bit of a panic there for a little bit. I was like, I should probably try to protect these things, because that's the electricity for my house. It would be cool if I had taken steps to protect my electricity, while the town's electricity, the city folk are left in the darkness, and I can still have my my solar stuff here. Thought it'd be cool. And so I got into some EMF fabric. A lot of you were asking about that, and I just wanted to recommend a few things for people. I didn't bring any like links for actual products. Again, this is kind of stuff that I'm hoping to be able to make available to people. But here's what the EMF protected fabric looks like. Oh, I should have brought my EMF reader. Now, this stuff is very affordable. It's very cheap. I mean, I kind of forget what it is, but I think I got like 10 meters worth, and it's very pliable. It's not quite like a foil. It's more like I don't know, it kind of feels like a Halloween costume in texture. And this stuff, I think you could sew it. Like if there's any sewing people out there or something, you could really actually just make some clothes directly out of that. That'd be cool. Hey, hit me up if you want to make a deal. But what I did was I took this material and I but I built a little curtain around my inverters and around my batteries. And the strangest thing happened. Immediately, when I closed this curtain to try to protect these inverters, which, look, folks, it was my first time. I can certainly do it better. But the second I did it, I've had this like physical feeling of euphoria. This like, it almost felt like I was tipsy or something. Like this bizarre weight had been lifted off of me. Now, of course, we've talked about the effects of EMF. We've had people on Canary Cry talking about different ways to avoid them or deflect them or absorb them or whatever. And that all sounds great. Gon still has not sent me my stuff from our guests recently. Gotta call that guy about that. Keeping all my EMF protective stuff. But boy, oh boy, did it make a huge, huge difference. I mean, these big electrical inverters, they have to be, I mean, they do. I took my EMF measuring device out there and out to where the inverters are, and it's just pinged. It's just redlined. Like, do not spend too much time around these things. They are just blasting these EMF waves. And I cannot lie to you. I've noticed a night and day difference when I put this EMF curtain around it. Now, hopefully it protects those things enough that they don't absolutely melt and get destroyed in some sort of solar flare issue. But it was astounding. Now I'm kind of obsessed with taking my little EMF meter and just measuring EMFs everywhere I go. And seeing what I can do about it. I don't know what it would be like in a normal house, surprisingly off grid in a rural area because of the need for these inverters. It was actually causing some pretty high EMFs in my space, but immediately felt better. Not just like, maybe if you avoid the EMFs for a month or a year, then you'll not get cancer and that'll be great. No, it was like immediately felt like actual physical pleasure in my body, like the heaviness, some sort of oppressive feeling was just gone. And it was a huge relief, and it's great. I also made a little bag with the material and just had some EMF tape. It also comes with tape, and made a little case that I put around my batteries for the house as well. Kind of the same thing. And I also covered my generator, my backup generator and the stuff. So then I got really interested in this stuff. And it turns out you can actually get a lot of good things. And I recommend for everybody doing this, for everybody who's putting a collection together, you're getting ready for stuff, get something like this. Oh, the camera is so close, you might not be able to see it. Oh no, how am I going to get this on the screen? This is a big one, but basically it's just like an EMF bag. It's about 1 foot by 1 foot, and you can see that I have stuff in this one. And I've tested this with the EMF meter. Anything inside this bag is very well protected. And specifically, I think this needs to be an absolute requirement for anybody, collecting things. For instance, radios. This is my comms bag, baby. My comms bag. So all the comms devices are in this EMF protected bag. So if there's a solar flare or something nasty, if you just have your radios in a drawer and the sun decides to blast us or a nuclear bomb goes off, it doesn't matter that these are in the drawer. The EMFs will just blast right through and fry them. There's things like you got to take out the battery, you got to but even if there's no battery, even if there's no current in them, if those EMFs hit, it's just going to melt all electronics. Now, why would I need one radio when everybody else's are destroyed? Good question. That's why I have another one. Okay, stuff like that. And in a number of cases, if you are preparing, if you have gadgets, if you have electronics that you're hoping to use and have work in all situations, it's required. I don't know why somebody didn't tell me this. It's absolutely required that you store them in this EMF protected bag. Get the sat phone in there, get the burner phone, get everything you need, put it in the bag, protect it. That's just my recommendation for the day. Let's see. Jonathan F says we'll just make smoke signals. Yeah, I will definitely be keeping an eye out for Jonathan F's smoke signals, because he will be sending jingles for the show in smoke signal format, which is interesting. Let's see here. Checking the chat real quick. What's everybody doing? Okay, good. Sir Darren out of the Hungry Panda says he needs an EMF bag. Beast fashion. That's what I'm talking about. Don't worry, folks. I'm working on it. It's my dream to start making these things available to you guys in an affordable, strategic, disciplined manner. I really do feel sort of passionate about making it easy for people who, especially who haven't started, just to be like, yep, let's go. And then in an organized, affordable fashion, they become more prepared. I'm not saying I'm inventing that idea, but it's just something I'm very passionate about. Okay. How are we doing on time here? Oh my gosh. Okay. We're coming up on 2 hours here, folks. So I want to get to this last thing before we do the show. Yeah. Somebody I saw commented earlier about the live viewership count that they see. Yes, it is a part of our sort of full scale censorship that we have, that YouTube does not count our views in a straightforward way. They do not count our live viewers either in a straightforward way. Basically, all of our numbers on YouTube are just kind of manufactured to make sure that nobody listens to us or watches us, but they can't keep us down, baby. All right. Bible Mandela Effect says, you're a prepper when you have tested all your prepped supplies by eating them until exhausted. You got to see if your radios are edible, people. You got to do it. Uh, that's funny. Okay, here we go. Last one. Let me see if I can get to it here. This is fun. This is fun. I was just popping around, scoping around. I found this very fun article from askaprepper.com. Askaprepper.com. And you can see what I'm talking about when it comes to the sort of branding and graphic design of a lot of these prepper-based brands. I don't even need to say anything. You can just know what I'm talking about. If you're just listening to the show, imagine askaprepper.com. You are imagining it correctly. They are a leader in the space. But this was a fun thing. Prepping projects from the Bible. Okay? All right. The ongoing conversation about is prepping okay for Christians to do? Is prepping biblical? Back and forth. I'm not going to lie. I think there's good conversations being had about this. This is a conversation been going on for quite some time, and we will continue to cover as things reveal themselves. But this was just a fun review of prepping projects from the Bible. So not just like spiritual principles. Is the spiritual principle of prepping biblical, or is the practice a sin or not a sin? These are actual prepping projects from the Bible. It's pretty fun. It reads like this: a very interesting debate is whether you can be Christian and a prepper. I don't know. I guess it is an interesting debate. That there are surely aspects of prepping that are godly. I've seen many arguments where people get all caught up in the minutia of prepper activities and beliefs and how they align with the Bible. No, see, I like this guy's attitude. No matter where you fall on this argument, there are clearly prepper projects in the Bible. There are texts that read something out of a modern day prepping blog. I think that is because the human condition and experience requires a level of preparedness. Yeah, this guy, gotta talk to this guy. Only recently has our society decided the best way to live is to have next to nothing and a few days worth of food around. This is not sustainable, and we are feeling it now. Let's look at some of these projects from the Bible. You'll see the prepper in them, but you'll also see that mankind's story has not changed much over time. And of course, a classic is Joseph's stockpile. Every prepper can understand and appreciate a good stockpile. Joseph was gifted with the foresight that there would be years of hard times. Have you not been gifted with similar foresight? Huh? Hey, this guy's good. Maybe your prepper visions did not come from God himself, but you know that hard times are coming. Joseph created a massive stockpile of food that was so abundant, he handed it out to others when the lean times came. Now, wouldn't it be great if we could all help in the coming lean times? That's where, see, folks, it goes back to, yes, the spirit of the prepping. Are we prepping so we can keep everybody out, or are we prepping to help provide for God's people? Genesis 41, 48 through 49. He gathered up all the food of the 7 years when there was plenty in the land of Egypt and stored up the food in the cities. He stored up in every city the food from the fields around it. So Joseph stored up grain in such abundance, like the sand of the sea, that he stopped measuring it, and it was beyond measure. Well, la-dee-da. That's a lot of prepping there, Joseph. Thank you. Next up is Noah's bug-out vehicle. Now, this I like. This makes me want to name my bug-out vehicle the Ark. The greatest bug-out vehicle in history had to be Noah's Ark. Prompted by God, Noah built a BOV capable of hauling massive amounts of supplies and creatures. BOV sounds like an acronym that I need to understand. I'm going to take a guess right now. I'm going to be vulnerable about my ignorance. BOV, boat over vehicle. Oh, that's got to be something close to it. BOV. If you're in the chat and you know what a BOV is, put it in the chat and you win a prize. Oh gosh. But this is looking up acronyms online is like the worst thing to do. I'm scared to click any of these. Prepping. I'm going to go BOV acronym prepping. Boop. Come on now. Here we go. Ooh, 50 prepper terms and acronyms. Bug out vehicle. Of course it means bug out vehicle. Oh, how embarrassing. That's bug out vehicle. Thanks. Thanks, Ask a Prepper. I also just found this list of 50 prepper terms and acronyms you should learn. This will be a new segment on the show. We will learn acronyms and terms together. It's all about that bunker culture, baby. We got to have a language. We got to speak the same language. So BOV is the one for today, bug out vehicle. Your bug out vehicle is probably not as impressive as something biblical, no matter how you feel about the story of Noah and his ark. How else could you feel? We know about floods. Archaeology and historical texts have proven that our world faces massive floods. In fact, there are floods that hit this planet which are so massive they're limited to high ground to survive them. These could come from impacts, melting. Somehow we got to figure out how to make cars, got to get amphibious vehicles. BOV amphibious. If you get big enough tires on a truck, perhaps you could float. The importance of a reliable bug-out vehicle is reiterated in these passages. A BOV might be an important prepping project for you to undertake. I'll tell you what, I want to do that. Good old BOV. Make sure it's something with minimal electronics, of course, or else it'll get fried by the sun. Here we go. Genesis 6:14. Make for yourself an ark of gopher wood. You shall make the ark with rooms and shall cover it inside and out with pitch. This is how you'll make it. The length of the ark, 300 cubits, its breadth, 50 cubits, and its height, 30 cubits. And the Lord said, gain yourself a Dodge Ram 2500 and put on it 38-inch tires and reinforce it with Kevlar inside and out, thus saith the Lord. Verse 16, you shall make a window for the ark and finish it to a cube from the top and set the floor of the ark on the side of it. You shall make it with lower, second, and third decks. A window shall make the window shall you make in the ark. I love how the window was part of the instructions. They actually had that last part. There it is. A window shall you make to the ark, and in a cubit shall you finish it above, and the door of the ark shall you set in the side thereof, with lower, second, and third stories shall you make it. There you go. Bug out vehicle. Boom. In the Bible. This one was interesting. Gideon's intel. I've talked about Gideon's army recently for so many reasons. But Gideon's army, if you remember, he tested his soldiers. The enemy was too much. He tested his soldiers and whittled down his own army to 300 elite soldiers to win the battle. Gideon's battle against the Midianites takes many strange turns. He is internally battling with his own doubts. He is struggling with God, and he is even dwindling his forces at a time when he seemingly needs them most. However, the battle is won in the hearts and minds of Gideon and his warriors when he spies on the Midianite camp. While he doesn't recover strategic intel, it is undoubtedly his ability to gather intel that wins the battle for him. If you are dealing with human threats in your area, then gathering as much intel as possible will give you a massive advantage over them. In a collapse situation, there will be forces that look to prey upon the weak. Gathering intel on those forces can clue you in on how much power they have, how many people, guns, and what plans they are making. In a fallen world, the successful survival will always be gathering intel. Yeah, and this can take a lot of forms. I mean, this is like a bug out plan is important. Knowing all the back roads out of your area, knowing where the population centers are, and are you in between a population center and, say, a water source? Things like this. This is all very important intel. And then, of course, knowing your neighbors and if they're cool or not is very important. They have Judges 7 here. Now the camp of Midian lay below him in the valley. During that night, the Lord said to Gideon, get up, go down against the camp, because I am going to give it into your hands. If you are afraid to attack, go down to the camp with your servant Purah. Moses's evacuation plan is the next one. Look at this. Don't you love it? Moses may have created the best bug out or evacuation plan in all of history. He led 600,000 people out of Egypt and freed them from the shackles of slavery. The good news for us is that we only need to deliver our family to safety in the event of an emergency. Having a quality evacuation plan and a bug out plan, these are not the same thing, will make your life much easier when you rush out of your home to survive. That's an interesting detail. What an interesting detail. The difference between an evac plan and a bug out plan. I'm going to make a note of that. Maybe we can dive into that next episode coming up here. Okay. One of the most important prepping projects from the Bible is the creation of an evacuation plan. I wouldn't plan on parting the Red Sea. You could certainly include a boat in your evacuation plan or bug out plan. Exodus 14, the Israelites journeyed from Ramses to Succoth, where there were about 600,000 men on foot, besides women and children. Many other people went up with them, and also large droves of livestock, both flocks and herds. Both flocks and herds? Sounds like somebody was feeding the ducks. Yeah. Gotta get your flock of ducks. The ducks will give you the intel for your evacuation plan. Let the ducks come to your aid. Put some bread in your pocket. You never know when you want to feed the ducks. Get the ducks on your side. It's also worth noting that food and livestock were included in this journey. If you're planning a bug out, then you should have food to eat on the way. Very important. And look at this one. This is a thoughtful guy. I'll give him this. This is thoughtful. Last one is King Solomon's Diversity of Preps. Ecclesiastes is by far my favorite book in the Bible. It is very clear that King Solomon was incredibly wise. In this biblical phrase, it is very clear that he understands the importance of diversity in preps. He wasn't the kind of king to hoard only arrowheads and swords. Diversification in your preps is imperative. This was the king's project and advice. Look at this. They're applying PACE. Apply PACE to your preps. That's PACE, another acronym. And be sure that you are always gaining new skills and practicing old ones. PACE is primary plan, alternate plan, contingency, and emergency, different levels of your prepping. You need more than just beans and bullets if you want to be truly prepared for the economic collapse that is upon us. Many people are thinking about things like gold and land and other ventures. Ecclesiastes 11:2, invest in 7 ventures. Yes, in 8. You do not know what disaster may come upon the land. That's an interesting, I might need to go back and read Ecclesiastes 11. Invest in 7 ventures. Yes, in 8. You do not know what disaster may come upon the land. That wasn't the last one. This is the last one. James's mindset. See? Even in the Bible, the mindset of preparation is very important. It has taken me the better part of 10 years to build a solid base of prepping skills and resources. I still have much further to go. That said, things that pushed me so hard was my mindset. I think the mindset of a prepper counts for much. In truth, it is what drives a prepper forward. Even if you have the money and the knowledge, you still must get up and do the work. Oof, that's the tough part. I'm telling you, you got to spend the time canning. It's not good enough just to own the cans. Speaking from personal experience. James 2:26, for as the body without the spirit is dead, so faith without works is dead also. Interesting application of that scripture. I can see why James's mindset is the object here. Perhaps looking a little bit into the mindset of an ancient writer here, not necessarily taking his words as the words and context of his writing, but very interesting. It was a very different world during biblical times. People were so different, it's hard to comprehend. That is true. Still, they used survival and prepping basics to overcome massive obstacles. Each one of the prepping projects from the Bible will help you along your preparedness journey. As preppers, we like things that have been practiced and proven. While the Bible is where many of these things have turned up first in the written word, these are survival skills that would be used time and time again throughout history. So I'm having fun here. Look at that, folks. We're all having fun prepping in the Bible. Take that, christianquestions.org or whatever you I forgot what the name was. Let me check my notes. That might be it. Look at us. Do we go? We're over 2 hours. We did it. We're over schedule. Well, I hope you guys had a good time today. I had a good time. It's fun stuff. Let's what do you say we go out on a little feeding the ducks? That's right. Thanks for listening to Basil's Bunker. I really appreciate everybody being here. I really appreciate everybody, even those. I appreciate the live viewers, the call-in people. Thank you so much. Always great to have your voice on the show, and I highly recommend, highly encourage everybody. Call in once. You gotta call in once. Remember the ducks. The ducks would not get fed if they did not come to the bread that was being provided to them. You got to go where the bread is, folks. The bread is on this show. I forgot what I was talking about. Thank you, everybody. Oh, thank you, live viewers. Thank you, callers. Thank you to the podcast listeners. Right now, we do not have our own RSS feed. Here's the thing, folks. This is we're 5 episodes in. I mean, give me your feedback. Your feedback is the most important thing here. We all know that I have done side project after side project, and I'm trying something new, doing it solo here, trying not to rely on other people. But if this is something that I should keep doing, if this is something that brings value to your life, if this is something that you're having fun with, you must let me know. You must email me. Email me at canarycryradio@gmail.com. Just say, hey, I love it. Thank you. Please keep doing it. Because without that kind of encouragement, I have no way of knowing if people care about this show or not. And perhaps I should put my energy towards something else. That's always possible. But if good responses come in for this episode, the next step will be to build out a new YouTube channel just to start leading people there. And we'll create a new RSS channel, a new podcast channel specifically to subscribe to. Because, this is good. It's good that we're putting this stuff on our current channels. But I don't know if that's forever. But if we want to start building out the infrastructure for this, let me know that this is something that you want, please. Oh, look, sorry, the screen is wrong. I'm still figuring out this thing. So do that. What else is there? That's it. We're going to do that. Send in your encouragement, send in your suggestions, comments. Here's what I will say, please, people who come into the chat or people who watch the show on YouTube or Rumble afterwards. Maybe I need to dive into the comments. Here's the thing. It is generally not recommended to go deep into the comments because bad stuff lives there. I don't necessarily think it's important for me to subject myself to all the comments. So if you are leaving encouragement, if you are leaving suggestions, if you are leaving topics, if you are trying to communicate to me through the comment section in these videos, 99% probably I will not see it. So that's another thing about you guys sending emails is I know it's a pain in the butt. I know it's an extra step. And that's why every email actually means a lot more than just passive comments and stuff on the internet. So please, canarycryradio@gmail.com. Let me know what you think of the show. And we're going to be doing more. Let's see. Let me look at the notes here. Look, we got to learn the difference between an evac plan and a bug out plan. We're going to be talking about some disciplined prepping strategies for all the newbies out there. Maybe you've had the prepper mindset your whole life, but have never actually put a plan or a strategy to work. Maybe your prepping is sort of erratic and just depends on what advertisers are showing you at certain times. This is all very possible, and nobody should feel, condemned for this, because this is the natural state of a prepper in 2024. And we are here together as a community. We're going to be okay. And, that's the way it's supposed to be. We're all supposed to be here feeding the ducks together. Come on now. Thanks, everybody, for hanging out today. Feeding oh, look. He followed us the whole way. This duck has been following us for over 2 hours. He seems to be bonded. Look, he likes you. He's walking up to your foot. His flappy little duck foot is standing on your shoe. You better give that duck some more bread. I feel like this duck is going to be quite the asset when society collapses. But until then, keep on bunking bunkaroos. Hi, little duck. Cute little duck. Thank you very much, little duck. Actually, I got a complaint last time that I ended the stream mid-song. Apparently, it made the editing of this show difficult for Gons. Oh, and another thing to address. Yeah, sometimes you're going to hear some little birds chirping on the recording. I've talked about this before, but you may have forgotten. In this VR headset, there are birds chirping that I cannot control. I cannot turn them off. Sometimes they're here, sometimes they're not here. And they get stuck on the second track of the recording. I had a little glitch in the VR today, and I'm not hearing the birds. So hopefully it should be clear. All right, everybody. I'm out of here. Keep bunking bunkaroos. See you next time.